Hi everybody and welcome back. In this lesson we're going to create a class of our own, a user class. And this will kind of preempt some of the stuff that we have coming up in future lessons. In this lesson, rather than use the console, we'll create a file. So back into our code editor, let me just shift across here. And let me just shrink up this folder. So here we are in our code editor, and I'm just going to create an example file or a sample file, whatever you want to call it, in the root of our application. So this is my application folder here. So let me just expand that out and let me just say new file, and I'm going to call this example user_user.orb. This is temporary. Okay, there it is here, bottom left or 3/4 of the way down, left hand side. So put this file in the root directory. Okay, let's get started. Class user, capital U, not S, capital U. ATTOR, that is short for attribute, underscore accessor. ACCESSOR, attribute underscore accessor. We want to say name, comma, email. There we go. The second line, let's say DEF, initialize, INITIALIZE. I always misspell that, but not this time. Initialize brackets, attributes, equals, and open close curly brackets. Hit enter. What we want to say is at name, so the at symbol, name, equals, attributes, square brackets, colon, name. New line, at email, equals, attributes. Let my autofill do the work there. Square brackets, colon, email. Perfect. End. Next, DEF, formatted email. Underscore email. Don't forget the underscore. Open quotation marks. Hash. And as you can see, Atom's autofill automatically put in the curly brackets there for me. So at name, angle brackets, hash, curly brackets, at email. Close our angle brackets, and let me just check this line of code. So we open with double quotes, hash, curly brackets, at name, close curly brackets. Then we have angle bracket hash, open curly brackets, at symbol email, close curly brackets, right angle, close double quotation marks. Hit enter, end, and again. And that closes out our user class. Let me save that. Okay guys, so we've got quite a bit going on here. So let's step through it line by line. So here on line 2, let me just highlight it there. So line 2, attribute underscore accessor. So here we have attribute accessors corresponding to a user's name and email. This creates getter and setter methods, or what are called getter and setter methods, that allow us to retrieve, get, and assign, set, at name and at email instance variables. The main thing to remember about instance variables is that they are automatically available in the views. So we have our two variables here, at name, at email, and they can be used in our web pages or in the views of our web pages. And how do I know that these are instance variables? Instance variables always begin with the at symbol. Let's jump down to the next line. DEF initialize, so line 3 here in our code editor. This is our first method. Initialize is the method called when we execute user.new, so when we create a new user. Our initialize method takes one argument, attributes. The attributes variable has a default value equal to the empty hash, and we learned about hashes in a previous lesson. This means we can define a user with no name or email address. The next two lines here are our instance variables. And let's jump down here to line 8, where we have a new method called formatted underscore email. This method uses the values of the assigned at name and at email variables to create a correctly formatted version of a user's email address using string interpolation. And we saw interpolation a few lessons back. Because at name and at email are instance variables, they are automatically available in the formatted underscore email method. Okay guys, I hope that made sense, and if not, it will do now in a few minutes. let's jump into our Rails console. Okay, so here I am here in my Orbit folder. I just need to start my console, not like a previous lesson where I forgot. There we go. Now let's say require / example _ user. And let me just put this in, which I forgot. Typo here. Single quotation, period symbol, / example _ user, close single quotation. And this loads the example user file, which we have here. Example _ user. Let me hit enter. True, it's loaded. Now, example equals, not minus, equals user, capital U, .new. Hit enter. Perfect. Example.name. Hit enter. And it's nil. Why is it nil? It's nil as the name attribute is nil. Let's fix that. Example.name equals Tony Staunton. Let me hit enter. Perfect. Next, example.email equals quotation marks Tony at example, not pound, at example.com. Close the double quotation marks. Great. Then finally, example.formatted email. Now, before I hit enter on this, as you can see, I won't be passing anything into it. I'm just calling it. And why is that? Because you might remember I said a few minutes ago that the instance variables are available in this method because they are instance variables defined up here. So let's jump in back here, hit enter. Excellent. Tony Staunton, Tony at example.com. So we've just created an empty user and then filled in the name and email by assigning them directly to the corresponding attributes. Let's create another user by passing a hash to the initialize method, this time with predefined attributes. And how do we do that? Well, let me show you. User equals user.new, open up brackets, name, colon, what do we give the name? Let's say Mary, close our quotation marks, comma, email, colon, and what are we going to give now? We need to give her an email address. So let's say Mary at example.com. Close our quotation marks, close our brackets. Hit enter. Excellent. User.formatted _ email. Excellent. Okay guys, that's it for this lesson. And let's close out by committing the code of the last few lessons. So let me exit out of console here. And let me say git status. Let me see what's going on inside git because it's been a while. Okay, there we go. What have we got? We've got a couple of files that have been modified and we've got an untracked file. Okay. So our untracked file here, example _ user, will no longer be needed. So let me jump back in here into my code editor. Let me close it. Let me highlight it here, right click it and delete. Do I want to delete it? Yes, please. There we go. Back into my terminal. Git status. Okay, our unmodified file is gone. Or sorry, our untracked file is gone. So let's commit. So git commit -am, so all, and we're adding a message. And what's the message? Well, you might remember that we started off this section or this series of lessons by working with a title helper. So let's call it that, title helper. There we go, nice and simple. So 2 files, 20 insertions, perfect. Git checkout master, so let's check out our master branch. Switch to branch master. Now we need to merge in the branch that we've been working in the previous lessons. And how do I know what branch that is? Well, when I typed in git status, just a few lines up here, it told me on branch Ruby Basics. So that's what we need to do. We need to merge our branch Ruby Basics back into master. So let's do that with git merge Ruby -basics. Hit enter. Perfect. And as is best practice, let's run our test. So Rails test. Okay, that looks good. And why does that look good? Because as you can see here in the last couple of lines, we've run 3 of 3 tests, 6 assertions, 0 failures, 0 errors. So that means all the code that we've been working on the last few lessons hasn't broken any of our tests. So let's say now git push, because we know everything is working. No point in pushing up broken code. There we go. And now let's git push to Heroku. Okay, there we go. Our git push to Heroku has been completed and successful. So let's take this URL and take a look. Let me open up my web browser. There we go. Paste this in. Orbit homepage. Perfect. And as you can see here, up top, home, pipe, Orbit feedback application. Our title helper code has been merged and is working successfully. Great. Okay guys, so that's it for this lesson. And what have we learned with the previous lessons? Well, we learned that everything in Ruby is an object, methods are defined using the def keyword, and classes are defined using the class keyword. Views can contain simply static HTML or indeed ERB, which is embedded Ruby code. We looked at arrays, ranges and hashes. We looked at Ruby blocks and how they are used to iterate over enumerable data. We've seen how symbols are labels, and we've seen how Ruby supports object inheritance. And in the previous lesson, we also looked at how we can modify built-in Ruby classes. So we've covered a lot of ground, guys. If you have any questions, as always, don't hesitate to reach out and contact me in the Q&A or the forum sections. And as I always say, don't be afraid to go back and look at a lesson a couple of times over if you are unsure. And if you're still unsure, reach out to me. It's no problem at all. So I hope you found that lesson helpful, and indeed the previous lessons. We're going to be moving on to some exciting new lessons where we're going to start looking at the structure and the layout of our application. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next lesson.